Of the Planning and Zoning Commission for Tuesday, June 21st, 2022 to order. Mary Ellen, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tedesco? Commissioner Volpe? Commissioner Clock?
Here.
Commissioner Willow?
Here.
Commissioner Caird?
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Bowles?
Present.
Alternate Commissioner Coviello? Alternate Commissioner Ma? Commissioner Santiago?
Here.
Vice Chair Salka?
Here.
Chair Hammersley?
Hammersley's here. I did hear from Commissioners Tedesco, Volpe, Coviello, and Ma. They're not going to be able to make it tonight. We will see Commissioner Caird and Coles in their place. So with that, we have a quorum. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And all remain standing for a moment of silent reflection, please. All right, thank you. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting held on June 7th, 2022.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion. Do we have a
Second.
second? Commissioner Coles.
Whoa.
There he is.
Out of the gate.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Gotta be like that.
Moving on to item number 7, Commissioner discussion, subcommittee reports. Anyone have anything? I have one. The Economic Development Strike Force Committee held a meeting on June 18th. We reviewed, like we usually do, the actions that were recently taken by this commission. It was also noted that there's a number of site searches that are occurring in town, and our biggest obstacle is a lack of inventory for space. So coincidentally or not, I guess it's not a bad problem to have. But there are a couple projects that have not materialized due to an increase in costs and expenditures. Those continue to be on hold, and we're hoping that we can work through that and have that stuff done. So that's what we have for that subcommittee. All right, any questions? Any other subcommittee reports? We'll read our preamble and we'll move on. Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Southington Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Robert Hammersley. I'm the chair of the commission, and I'd like to take a few moments to explain the meeting format. Aside from administrative items, tonight's meeting is comprised of two parts, a public hearing and a business meeting. During the public hearing, the applicant will present the application to us in detail, which will allow the commission members and the public the opportunity to better understand what is being proposed. The commission members may ask questions during the presentation if needed. Then we will ask members of the public who support or oppose the application to speak. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Once recognized, come forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Please address all comments directly to myself and not to the applicant or other members of the public. Please be advised that this is your opportunity to ask questions and make comments on an application. Once a public hearing is closed, no additional testimony from the public or the applicant will be permitted. It is important to maintain order and decorum at all times during the meeting. After everyone has had a full opportunity to speak, all questions have been answered and all information has been received. We will decide whether it is appropriate to close the hearing. We will not consider voting on an application until the business meeting. After everyone has had, I already read that. During the business meeting, we will deliberate on the application submitted to the commission and decide how to act on them. We have several different options. Number 1 is to approve the application as submitted. Number 2, approve it with stipulations, conditions, or modifications. Number 4, table the action for a future meeting, or in some cases, we may deny an application. 4 affirmative votes of the commission are generally required to approve any application. If you have to leave during the meeting before a decision is rendered, you can call the planning department tomorrow afternoon and get results from tonight's meeting. With that, we will move to item 8A. John N. Rogers, trustee, special permit application for an accessory building, property located at 36 Long Bottom Road in an R80 zone, SPU 662. Sepravino.
Good evening.
Hey.
Commission members. See, get my hardware here. My name is Sev Bovino, planner with Kratzer Jones and Associates, represented the applicant for orientation purpose. The map on the screen here shows north is up. This is a Long Bottom Road. There's a curve in the road at this location, then it comes to an intersection with Andrew Street here. There's a barn and a house at this location. There's an existing driveway. There's multiple driveways through this farm, but the major one is right here, and we plan to utilize this driveway to reach the proposed building. The property is located at 36 Long Bottom Road in an R-rated zone. It is served by private septic system and private well. The land area is 51 plus or minus acres, surrounded by other properties owned by the Rogers family, most of them dedicated to apple production. The land has a rolling topography. There's a residence, as I said, on the property at the curve in the road, and there's a barn and some sheds. There's an overflow parking at the bottom of the hill where people park during the fall for apple picking, which is this area here. The driveway leading to the top of the property, at that location, there's a large deck right here. There's a large deck, existing deck, that was used over the years by the family to gather and enjoy the views of the valley and other scenic views from that spot. The proposal is for a 1,800 square foot building. It is an accessory uses to the property as a farm. It will be dedicated to the production of cider with a tasting room for about 40 guests in the building, an additional 60 seats provided with patios on the outside on either side of the building. And there's also a picnic area among the apple trees further down. The cider making area is in the basement with a walkout and a loading dock. The upstairs is for the tasting area with seating. As I said, we proposed 2 patios. The building is a low profile, 17-foot height, positioned to enjoy the views with large windows. There's a parking proposed close to the building and further down as an overflow parking. So we have the building located here with parking directly to the north. Then there's overflow parking at this area here, and then additional overflow parking can be used down here. The total official parking spaces are 70 spaces, this plus this area here, 70 spaces. The two are connected by a walkway that goes from the building to the other overflow parking at the bottom of the hill. So there's a sidewalk proposed from this parking, overflow parking, along the driveway, follows the driveway and comes to the building. So people that decide to enjoy the farm, enjoy the apple trees, they can just park here and take a nice walk up the hill. The site is designed for the guests to use and enjoy the outdoor space. As required, we provide a layout, a 500-foot radius map showing the properties and owners within 500 foot. We mail notice it to those owners, provided proof of mailing to staff for the record. There's no food preparation in the facility. The hours of operation are 10 a.m. to midnight in accordance with state liquor permit regulations. It is planned to be a 7-day year-round operation. Most likely, this will be based on the demand. This will be a 4 or 5 day a week operation. We submit that the proposed building and use are in harmony with the area and will not hinder development of adjacent parcels. We hope that the commission finds the proposal acceptable. Peter Rogers is here. He'll be showing you the building inside and out, the way it looks. Peter, you want to?
Yes. Thank you, Seth.
X out of this one. Sure.
Hi, good evening. Peter Rogers, President Rogers Orchards, Inc., 336 Long Bottom Road here in town. I'm with my brother-in-law, Greg Parzik, who also is from Rogers Orchards, president. Tech support. Thanks to the commission for your consideration for our special permit application. I'll give you a little history of Rogers Orchards. If you don't know us, we're an 8th generation family farm that dates back to 1809. We have 2 retail operations in town here. Do a lot of wholesale with Stop and Shop, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's. It's a business that we've made a go at for, this will be our 213th harvest. So we want to be around for hopefully another 200 years. Farming is, as you can imagine, is very difficult with weather conditions. And then you layer in the business risks with recessions, inflation, supply chain issues, labor issues. It's amazing to think that we're still around and doing what we've been doing. We, as Sev laid out, one of the things that we want to do, and as a business and as a family, is to diversify our business, and offering hard cider in a location that shows the beauty of our orchard and the beauty of Southington is something that we're interested in. It's something that we thought about for a while. My family and I are very passionate about it, and it's something that we're approaching with a lot of thought and care. And we want to show off our orchard land. We want to show off our history, and we want to show off the views that the ridge on our property have. We would be working under a farm winery permit that we're in the process of getting, that will allow us to take juice from our apples to make this cider. As I said, we're approaching this in a very thoughtful and sort of methodical way. We've hired a architect firm this firm's specialty is tasting rooms, wineries, and we feel like it's a good fit for our history and our culture. It's the idea is to make this a place that people can appreciate and share with their family, and show off the beauty of this area. I'm going to show a quick video of what the site, we hope, will look like. Okay. This is the view looking south. This is the view looking south as our customers would be approaching the building. The building footprint is 60 by 30, as Sev described, with a max height of 17 feet. We're in the process of planning 2 patios on either side of the building. You can see it's simple, it's tasteful, and it's not going to have any cooking. It's going to be packaged food only, and allow us to focus on what we hope to do best, is make a product. Small office space. This is now the view, the west patio looking south. So you can see there's a lot of glass, making it a lot of natural light and sort of an open air concept. Yep, that's it. So this just gives you a better idea of the footprint itself, what we saw in that video.
We blow it up a little bit.
Sure.
Arrow to
Lose,
the,
yeah. We're losing a sidebar.
arrow to the right.
Mr. Chairman, Commission members, what you see there is the interior layout with the angle wall that is shown on the plan. It's the loading area below the building. We have concrete walls on either side. We depress the area so they will not be as visible from the client standpoint, and there will be a shielding of that area with evergreens. From a SBU standpoint, the area is served by a 20-foot wide driveway paved all the way from a Long Bottom Road to the facility. It has paved parking. It's a safe, accessible road to get to the facility. We have received the health department approval. We feel that the safety and health of the neighborhood is preserved. And the weather department has no problem. Obviously, then they cannot serve this area because it's too high up. We propose in a well for the facility, and the experience has been from by the Rogers family that the flow from their wells have a high yield, so they'll be able to serve the facility. For the SPU section, unless you have any questions, that's our presentation.
Okay, well, let's open it up to questions from members of the commission.
Just a general question, Mr. Chairman. Where the proposed building is, you told us the square footage and you were showing views from different perspectives. How high up in elevation is the building versus, 'cause when you showed the picture, it showed them like overlooking a valley. Now, I know it's not that high, but what is the height difference between where the building is going to be versus the view as you look down, or from the different, I can't get it from the,
We could start from Long Bottom Road. The elevation is 445.
yep,
At the Long Bottom. At the top of the hill, the building is at 498, so you're looking at
50 feet.
53 feet higher. And then the valley is probably 100 foot below us or more.
the what?
The valley that you're referring to, looking southwest.
Yep,
is
okay.
toward, Flanders Road, that's probably 100 feet or more down.
Thank you.
Bill Sipon?
Yes, sir.
Any other? Peter?
So since this kind of became public type thing, there's a lot of buzz about this. So I guess my question is, do you think your building's big enough? How did you size it? And I'm not saying that facetiously, because I can envision, my first question is, why'd you size it the way you did? And are you sure you have enough parking?
The size was decided between the client and the architect based on what they expect as the
Yeah.
demand. We can go over that.
Yeah, a little bit was out about demand, and this is obviously new territory for us. A lot of it came down to budget. We had a budget in mind, and with grand visions of
I'm-
of
sure.
of like a winery and a tasting room, and
Yeah.
things as costs, building material costs and other costs have gone up, it shrunk. But we wanted to go back to why we wanted to do this project. And it was about the beauty of the orchard and the beauty of those views. And, you know, if we need to expand on it, that's a good problem to have down the road. But it's about being outside as a family, picking apples, enjoying hard cider, and sort of appreciating this unique space in the town.
Right. Because a lot of the wineries, as you know, today in Connecticut, it's a big thing between wineries and breweries. Invariably, food comes next pretty quickly, albeit whether it's the site itself or a food truck or something along those lines. It's kind of like a natural thing. I mean, you folks have a bakery. I mean, I can see myself having some pie, some donuts, and sipping on cider. But like, when is this going to be built? But I think that's an invariable next step. But at least I think you have enough land there. Unfortunately, you'll have to get rid of some orchards, which is unfortunate to do that. But I question whether or not it's big enough. But at least you have plenty of room to expand there. I guess the other question, technical question for Sev, I read in here you're requesting a sidewalk waiver. Where?
Along Bottom Road.
Where? Could you show site plan where that would be, Sev?
Yes. It's shown on the site.
Okay, because I wasn't quite sure where, because you talked about the sidewalk on the walking path, so I wasn't sure where.
Path from the parking area.
Right.
All the way up.
Yeah, so that was great, but I wasn't sure.
Requirement for sidewalk along the roadway.
Yeah,
There's no sidewalk for miles, so we don't think that's necessary. We're providing the internal walk, and so we ask for a waiver based on that.
because I'd like to see where it would be if you could.
Starts right at the curve there.
Okay. But otherwise, I'm, businesses reinvent themselves all the time. And, you folks are Southington. You think of Southington and we think of you. So if this is important to you, then I think it's a natural next thing. Good for you for wanting to try something new and keeping it in Southington, because you didn't have to. When all said and done, you really didn't have to, but you are. So I think that's a great thing. So where is it, Seth?
To answer your question about the parking.
Yeah.
We have 70 spaces between this area and here. Then we have additional 40 spaces down here.
So it's 40 there. So 100, over 100.
110 space.
Okay. Probably more. Okay, cool.
And in regard to the sidewalk,
Oh, okay.
and regarding the sidewalk, right here, we have that curve in the road along
Yeah.
the bottom. So the waiver will be along this area here.
Oh, okay. So the site itself has a sidewalk in it from the sidewalk to it along that walking path.
Yeah, it starts here, the walkway, and goes up.
So, but because you're building a new thing, that's why the sidewalk comes in and it would be along there. Got it. All right. Thank you. I'm done, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any other questions? Go ahead, Seth.
The sidewalk for us was to facilitate the movement of the public from the parking area to the building, and also giving them an opportunity to walk instead of drive from point A to point B. A nice day, it's nice to walk. So that was the intent.
Taylor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 3 questions. The first is the location, looking from just the GIS to the end of the driveway coming from Long Bottom towards Mine Hollow Road. Is that section where you're going to do this from this, I don't know what year this was from, but there's wooded area there. Is that wooded area going to be cleared, or is this going to go into existing orchard?
No, it's all orchard. See these, we put in the trees all over? Mm-hmm. And there's no trees there where we're proposing the building or the parking lot. It's all open. There are some young trees here that we're planning to remove and relocate.
Okay.
Apple and peaches, that kind of thing.
So there's no forested land
No
in,
forested land in this area that we are proposing.
okay. Is it to the west?
It's to the west.
There is. Okay.
As soon the drop starts, you'll have that canopy.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. So the second question is the walkway from the parking lot to the east and the overflow parking lot to the far east. The driveway along that, is there going to be some sort of a lighting for that?
Yes. There's
So-
a lighting proposal along the driveway, yes.
Okay, and I didn't see, I'm sure you put it in there. Can you just explain the lighting plan, please?
There's a light post spaced out from the barn going up every so many feet, and they're 18 to 20 feet tall, shining down, full cutoff lighting, LED with protection so they don't spill. There's no spillage.
Is there any proposed, and this is extra credit question, this isn't part of my third one. Is there any proposed fencing along that walkway in between the drive space, the driveway and the sidewalk, or is it pretty much road, sidewalk?
No, there's road, then there's a shoulder, just like you have along the public roads, like 3-4 feet.
Yep.
Then you have the sidewalk, there's no fence.
So there will be like a snow belt kind of a thing between,
Shoulder, yes.
gotcha. Okay. And then my final question is, in the health department approval letter, they did mention some issues with wastewater with the processing. And I believe in the letter, it talked about a holding tank and then bringing it to the water pollution control facility to be treated. Can you just explain a little bit how the holding tank is going to operate?
Normally, what you have is your septic flow going into a tank, and then from the tank goes to the leaching fields. In this case, we proposed two separate systems because there was different kind of outflow, being the cider being washed on a regular basis. So we didn't want to mix that with the SEP system flow. So the health department feels that that's not something that the DEP may approve, so they recommended a holding tank, and that's what we decided to do. We're going to go with a holding tank, and so on a regular basis, probably every 2-3 months, 6 months, they're going to have to pump it out and take it to the treatment plant.
Is that tank going to be subsurface?
Yes. So
It will be. How large is it?
1,500 gallon.
Okay. And that will,
It's like a typical SEP system.
yeah. And we think that that's going to be enough for manufacturing?
Yeah, they don't use a lot of water, as I'm told by Peter and Jeff.
Catch most of the juice from the apples, so it's mostly wash water, no chemicals, just washing down.
Washing the apples themselves prior to crushing.
Probably
Excuse me, can you just step up to the microphone? Give us your name and address, please, again.
Greg Parzik, 368 Long Bottom Road in Southington, co-president, Rogers Orchards. So the holding tank, so the cider production process, the majority of water used is in washing equipment. Most of the juice from the cider and stuff is captured. So the holding tank would be probably, I was talking to our cider maker today, probably about every 9 months at the most, 1,500 gallons. So, Southington Sanitary would come, pump it out, and that'd be that. So,
Not a big deal. Okay. You're not planning an alarm on the tank, or like a high water alarm?
no, I think it's a very slow process what would be filling. And,
Okay.
this will all be new to us, new equipment and stuff. So it's going to be like a keen eye on like, what is our capacities and what the routine is going to be in the future.
Gotcha. Thank you very much for all your answers. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions from members of the commission?
By the way, the tank will be capped on one end, so it's a total holding tank. There's no outflow.
Okay. Question for me. When I first came to Southington, I lived on Moore Hill Drive, which is right off of Andrew Street. That turn right there is not a friendly one. For cars, I imagine it's especially not friendly for any potential pedestrian who's walking along there. Any thought given to moving the entrance? Because as you're coming around that turn, let's just say there's a backup of cars going in there. It's going to be hard to see that. And I'm just imagining that there's going to be some type of a vehicular, hopefully not involving a pedestrian situation there. Any thought to moving that entranceway out on the Andrew Street side of the parking lot, what I'll call the current unpaved parking lot that's sitting there? You know, so you're moving it to the south, down in that area right there. So instead of it coming up here, which the turn is right here, you would bring it out that way, maybe. Any thought to that?
We did not consider that. As far as the traffic is concerned, we are on the outside of the curve. So the visibility for us, looking east and west is good. And people come to the curve, they slow down because they know there is a curve to go around it. And there's good visibility there. No, we haven't given a thought to relocating that driveway there. The grades climb quite a bit. Here's a natural, that's why they put this driveway here next to the barn, because it starts climbing the grades and it's a reasonable grade. Down here, you have a quick drop and then you get the Andrews. So these grades go quite steep in this area. And the driveway grade cannot exceed 15%. That's for a
So-
single family.
So just to expand, right? So this comes up here, right? And then it does this, right?
Yeah,
So what you're doing for any car that's traveling in this direction, coming down here, coming into this, and then going into another turn, right? I'm not worried as much about cars going in this direction as I am about cars going down this way.
That straightaway of Long Bottom Road is almost a quarter mile between the two dog legs there.
Okay,
So the cars that are coming around from the north, it would be right there.
Right.
Are on the straight line. Almost there's even a rise, so it's by the time you get halfway, there's a house there. It takes a good minute or two to get down that straightaway.
all right. Any other questions from members of the commission? Okay, we're going to open up to members of the public.
thank you.
So at this time, any members of the public who'd like to speak either for or against the application, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and let us know what you think. Come on up, sir.
Good evening. My name is Steve Parsons. I live on Andrews Street, 1393, just up the road. Andrews, I look across at the orchards. I think I've been a good neighbor, and they've been good neighbors to me, so I don't really have a problem. I've got a couple of questions that I'd like to direct. I wish I'd gotten here a little earlier and we could have talked about them maybe. But
Steve, can you just bring that mic up so we can,
like that?
yeah,
Better?
there's no
Okay.
speakers up here, so
Okay.
it's hard for us to hear.
All right. You mentioned the hours were 10 to 12, midnight, 7 days a week, and how, all year round? Is it an all year round?
Hey, Steve, so direct the
sorry.
questions up here.
Okay.
I'll follow up after everyone's spoken and have the applicant come up and answer those.
All right. I was questioning the hours at going till 12 o'clock at night. I don't know what their plans are in terms of noise. If they're going to have bands, if they're going to have music going on till midnight is one of my concerns. It's a beautiful spot. I wonder whether it might develop more, as you were mentioning, with perhaps catering, and it could be a site for weddings, and whether that would contribute a lot to a different atmosphere among the orchards. You know, part of the loveliness of the orchard is the quietness and the solitude and the views, and everything is beautiful. And you know, I just don't know whether there's any restrictions. I mean, I don't, you know, some places have fireworks display on Friday nights or that type of thing. And that would be one of my concerns, if they've got some guidelines as to what, you know, both the neighbors can expect and what they can expect to be done. That, I guess, is my main concern. But the idea that that it might get much more popular, so the point where they're doing catering or doing, you know, much bigger crowds than the 30 to 60 that they're maybe planning on initially. Another minor concern, because I live right across my driveway, abuts the pear trees is sometimes on spraying. You know, they do a good amount of spraying and they're very cautious of it. They use mostly oils and stuff that's not pesticides or that type of thing. But, you know, is there procedures in place? I guess my question would be to them in terms of cleaning up picnic tables and stuff that people are going to be sitting at. Obviously, they'll know enough not to spray when they're expecting people there or that type of thing. But that would be my other question. But mainly, I'm just concerned with it going till midnight every night. You know, and one of the things I love doing, I'm up on the hill right across the street from them and looking down on it, and the views are beautiful. I'd hate to feel that I've got my own sound blaster going across the highway there to keep me from enjoying it quite as much. So other than that, as I said, they've been good neighbors and great to work with. So I'm sure that we can get through some of this stuff without any problems. But that's my comments.
Okay. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
Any other members from the public who wish to testify on this application? Okay, so Mary Ellen, maybe you're the best person to ask this question about what the points that Steve brought up about things like fireworks displays and that type of stuff. What are the restrictions on those, if there are any? Would they have to pull a separate permit to do that, or how would that work?
Fireworks, so that's typically fire department for fireworks displays, things of that nature.
So,
Noise, I don't believe there's any ones in town.
no, there's not.
What time hours of operation, that can be set by you guys.
Yeah, okay. Sev, you wanna, thank you. You wanna respond to the concerns that Mr. Parsons brought up?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity. The driveway is the building is about 800 feet away from the roadway. Mr. Parsons lives on the other side within the 500-foot radius of our property, but our property is 51 acres. I have not measured the distance, but must be well over 1,000 feet from this building to his house. Noise, we plan modern music inside the building, no music being blared outside the building with microphones or anything like that. And the hours of operation are, as I said, 10 a.m. to midnight, but typically it's going to be 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. This will be sometime, they may have a situation where it's going to be going to midnight. So we asking for the outside limit of the hours, so we don't have a problem that we say 10 to 10 and then something happens where it goes to 12 and there's a violation of that. As far as the spraying is, you can answer that question.
Just give us your name.
Greg Parzik again. So I'm the licensed private applicator for the farm, Connecticut license 3838. So all the spraying is managed by myself. And as Steve lives right on the border of our pear orchard, he's on the southern border, so we spray there when it's the southern wind. So in terms of the site plan here, a lot of the white dots in there are existing trees that are going to be cut down. We're not planning on having any orchard within sort of the parking lots or the walkways. The orchard for the north would still be there, and I'd follow a similar protocol as with Steve's house, you know, wait for a south wind, spray that orchard. And we do spray a fair amount. You need to in the New England for apples, but we do a pretty good job of it. I feel like, I don't know if you guys have had any complaints, but you know, they're very few and far between for us because we're sensitive to the neighbors. It's, you know, it's a relationship. So
Thanks, Craig. Organic sprays do you use, or are you using?
We are a conventional orchard. We're by no means organic. We're actually an a pioneering eco apple farm, which is a third-party audit for using more sustainable practices than your average conventional farm. And but some of the sprays we put on are organic. Steve lives right in the pear orchard, so he has the opportunity to have winter wonderland all year round because we've been spraying this. There's a very bad pest called a pearcilla that migrates in from the woods, and we were having a heck of a time with it for years. And then I discovered this organic clay you could spray that turns the trees white, and the psylla don't come in. They don't lay their eggs in the trees. The eggs don't hatch and secrete their honeydew and put fungus on the pears. So It's been 3-4 years with the clay. So we're open to everything. We're not organic, but that doesn't mean we're not sustainable.
Okay, thank you. Seth, just on your responses to Mr. Parsons' concern about view from his property right now, I'm assuming, because I assume, Mr. Parsons, that your house is on an elevated slot, because that's pretty much what's over on that side of the road. But from the street level, will this facility be visible from Andrew Street?
Well, right here is Andrew Street. The
Right.
grade goes up gradually. There are trees in this area which we will be keeping. All these will be kept here. So the sight line, he probably will be able to see it from his house. Probably he's over here on the high ground, so you'll be able to see. Most people will not, I believe, but he probably will see it. I would have to have a map to show you that. I'm not sure. I have not gone to his house location to look at it.
Okay, let me try to paraphrase what you just said to make sure I understand. Is that what you're saying is that from Andrew Street, most of the facility will not be visible, especially during this time of year when full foliage is out there?
Correct. And even
Wintertime, it
during the
might be a little
winter,
bit
because
different 'cause
the trees have a lot of branches on.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for members of the commission?
Mr. Chairman,
Bob, go ahead.
because this whole area is R80, and we got a business in an R80, which is pre-existing zoning. Does it make any sense to limit the hours to 10 p.m. instead of going to midnight? Because if you're there from 10 to 12 at night, you're there to party. You're not there for the view. Which I guess from their perspective would be a good thing, but for being in an R80 and the neighbors may not be, because the sound is going to carry, especially if you're that high up, it's going to carry. And I would much rather see the hours 10 to 10, and then if all goes well and they want to come back and take a look at it, because if you're out on the patio, even though there's no music, and you're, I don't want to say three sheets to the wind, but if you've had a few ciders, strong ciders, it might get loud. And I'm just concerned that if you're in a central business district, excuse me, that's different. But you're in the open, and I would like to go 10 to 10 instead of 10 to 12 to start out and see how it goes.
Well, that's our prerogative, but I will ask the applicant how they would feel about a 10 to 10 limitation on the hours.
Peter Rogers. We would be open to that. One thing to also remind you or consider, my brother, who has two young kids, is at the Red Barn at the entrance of this property. We own 3 other homes right in this area, and we're young. I think at least two of them have young kids. 3 of them have young kids living in it. So this is not a project where we want to have loud music till midnight. We also, given the property and how this is used, want to leave a door open should someone want to get married there. So
I have a suggestion for the commission. Maybe
Seth, could you talk to the mic, please?
I have a suggestion for the commission. If you incline to approve the SPU with a stipulation that you will review it in 2 years' time, so they opened up, and if there's a problem with the noise, then you have a chance to review it and control it that way.
Well, that's certainly, I mean, the prerogative is up to us, I think, to answer Commissioner Salka's question. That won't be taken up until the business meeting. But let me ask my question again, maybe in a more direct way. If we limit hours from 10 to 10, what does that do to your business plan for this type of an operation? Does it have an effect that's potentially a non-starter for you? Or does it still allow you to develop what you're planning on developing along the lines of what you presented tonight?
The discounted future cash flows do involve events, not wedding events, not loud music wedding events every single time, but we do a lot with the community and hosting. We've hosted Bread for Life fundraisers in this exact property. So for us to consider, okay, this opportunity, this revenue stream may be limited. I'm not, it's something we'll have to talk to the family about, but it does change the model slightly.
So, and just from our standpoint, just to explain, as I've done before with other applicants, our approvals go with the land. It doesn't go with the person. So in other words, you can turn around, if we approve it the way you presented it, you could turn around. I'm not saying you're going to do this, and I hope that that doesn't happen if we were to approve it. You could turn around and sell it. And someone else from outside the community can come in here and decide, hey, we're going to do whatever we're going to do. We're working within the parameters of what we were allowed to do from 10 to midnight. And at midnight, we'll shut the sound off, but we're going right up until 11:59, right? I mean, so that's why we have to be careful about that type of stuff. It's not necessarily a reflection on the good work that you all have done and being valued members of our community, but we have to look at the other possibilities out there. So just, again, to just explain our perspective on stuff. So, but I appreciate what you said too. I mean, it is a business decision at the end of the day, and maybe something to consider is maybe we do a 10 to 10 on the weekdays, but on weekends, maybe we open it up a little bit more, because I have to imagine that on weekends, that's when the bulk of your business would be, Friday nights or Saturday all day, or, Sunday. I mean, again, it's Sunday, so it's technically the weekend, but still, I mean, people tend to go to bed a little bit earlier then. But and I do hear Mr. Parsons' concerns. It is a pristine piece of property out in our town, out in that area, and I just want to make sure that it's personally for myself that it's maintained to the best amount while still being considerate to what you want to do out there as well. So, but with that, any other questions or comments from members of the commission? Steve?
I would just say, we're talking about 8th generation here. I don't think it being sold is something we need to concern ourselves with. And the idea of extra functions, special functions being there, I think I support the idea of, the idea of it going later. If they want to have weddings and they want to have special functions there, I think that's a key component here in the diversification of a 200-year-old business. I support it fully.
Anyone else before we close the public hearing? Anything else you want to say before we close the public hearing?
No, sir.
All right, we'll close the public hearing then. Don't go too far, because item 10A is John N. Rogers trustee special permit application for accessory building property located at 36 Long Bottom Road in an R80 zone, SPU 662. So this has to do with the building part of it, not with the site plan part of it. But let's open it up for discussion from the commission members.
Okay.
You look like you're waiting, but go
I
ahead.
am. I'm patiently waiting. Okay, so I agree with Steve. I think the 10 to 10 hours are too restrictive. I think the property is enormous. And I also think it's putting the business at it is approved for a business. And I think it's putting the business at a disadvantage where others in town, such as Mount Southington, have similar activity and are, I believe, allowed and do have quite extensive activity. So I would be in favor of allowing the proposed hours of operation.
So are you going to make a motion to approve this application, or?
I can make a motion
All right.
if there's no other discussion. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
Okay, do we have a second?
A second.
Oh, wait, Jen, you're not done?
Do I have to say, address the sidewalk waiver? Or
No,
does that
that's
come-
the site plan, that's site plan.
Okay,
This
sorry,
is
okay.
not site plan.
Okay.
Okay.
And I second.
Made a second, so we have a motion and a second, so we can all talk, because there's no alternates here, right?
Right.
Any further discussion from members of the commission? Peter?
I think I was, boy, in between, and I think Jen's point of Mount Southington is a fair comparison. And I didn't even think of that. But I think that's a fair comparison in regards to events and things like that. And that's not even remote. I mean, that's close to neighbors versus this. So I think I'm inclined to agree with this on that. I think that was a very compelling example. So I'm okay with it.
Any other members of the commission?
Mr. Chairman, just a question. I'm not sure that, I'm not that familiar. I mean, I live right across the street from Mount Southington, so I'm not sure about the noise level and the party level. They have the Quonset hut or whatever you want to call that big building there, but there's no patio there. It's all inside. This is going to have a patio.
There's a patio.
I'm sorry?
There's a patio.
Out in the back? I'm not familiar with it, but I'd like to know what the hours of operation are at the Southington, like at the back 9 on that big patio they have. It seems to me that there were some restrictions there, and I'm not sure. And that's more, in my mind, more appropriate comparison because it's right across the street with houses right next. You got Savage Street, and across the street is all residential. So I don't know what the hours of operation there are. I mean, I'll go along. I mean, I'm just concerned about the noise because it does happen.
Yeah.
And once we approve this thing, it's a done deal versus if we went 10 to 10, and, a year down the road, everything is going smoothly. They come back and boom, because I don't know if it's going to take off on day one anyway. It's going to be a gradual buildup. And we have an option. But once we make it 10 to 12, that's what it is. And we can't change
the
it.
review.
Hold on, Peter.
Yeah.
So could, along with Sev's suggestion, could we just approve the hours with a timeline of a 2-year review that in the event that there's a problem that raises its head that we can't foresee right now or becomes an issue 2 years from the time that it opens up, that the town looks at it again, and if there's a problem, then it comes back and they, maybe we curtail the hours. That way it's not an open-ended
Yep.
situation. I think the applicant would be open to that. I mean, he offered it as an option. Would we be, well,
As someone that's planning a wedding, I would hate to have someone tell me that it had to be over by 10 o'clock. I wouldn't go there, and I don't want to see them lay out all this money. Peter's already spending it on a bigger facility.
Sorry to spend your
Allow
money.
them every chance that they have to succeed.
Yeah.
And ambient noise from people speaking, making noise outside is one thing, but if there was a request for music outdoors, that has to go through ZBA, no? Even in this facility, in this situation?
Oh, I don't know.
Say that again. I'm sorry. I didn't hear you.
she asked
A,
if
a request for music outdoors would have to go through zoning board of appeals, would it not?
No.
I do believe there in the past, there have been, if it's live type of music.
Yes.
we
Oh,
do
yeah.
go through that.
So it wouldn't just be that you play music outdoors as you wish. There's that potentially to consider in this.
Likely, I mean, I guess it depends on the size of the event and things of
Yeah.
that nature, but it is possible.
Yeah, there is no outdoor music allowed in Southington unless you get a variance from the ZBA, and they typically don't approve that anyway. So
I mean, music played in the venue, inside, that's going to carry. Anyone speaking outside, that's going to carry.
but if you remember the problem we had at on Center Street,
Yes.
where they opened up the sliding doors, noise was coming out, and all the neighbors were complaining. And then they had to close the doors. So
50 acres, though.
what's that?
We're talking about 50 acres of span here.
Well, I know. But noise carries big time.
well, lake compounds used to have
Oh,
concerts out there, and if you stepped out of here when a concert.
We
was
can hear
going
lake
on, You'd
compounds.
be able to hear it, and that's more than probably 50 acres away,
Yeah.
right? Mr. Grappone, you were going to.
Thank you.
offer us a-
Yeah, I just went on the Back Nine's website. It looks like the hours of operation are 11 to 1 a.m. Monday through Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 11 to 2 a.m., Sunday, 11 to 1 a.m.
That's the patio use?
It just says I assume
Okay,
it's the whole,
fine.
So-
I don't know, it's just on the website, it doesn't
No.
Yeah,
specifically
that's
say,
the
but-
restaurant, I
makes
think, not
sense.
the patio, but
I'll offer my perspective on this, and maybe it will, maybe it won't, maybe it doesn't mean anything to anybody else but me, but, I spend time in Stowe, Vermont, and they have a fair number of, outdoor venues similar to this, both breweries, cider mills, it runs the gamut, and Stowe is a pretty small town, by most accounts. And I look at a plan like this and I think to myself, I mean, this is sort of just taken out of that playbook. And, we go up there, I'm going up there for July 4th week, and, it's the height of the summer season. They have some outdoor activities out there, and it's never a problem when we're up there. And I don't ever hear of a problem. And I trust that the applicant, given their history, that they're probably going to be pretty considerate to the neighbors while still trying to run a business, which is in this day and age, especially not that easy, with all the obstacles that are in front of them in terms of, as laid out. I think Peter talked to them with supply chain issues. I talked about it with the Economic Development Strike Force Commission. That's why some of these plans are not moving forward, is because of the cost of construction materials and the difficulty to get them. So personally, I'm fully in favor of the application that's here. I hear Bob's comments. I hear Mr. Parsons' concerns. I don't think it's going to amount to that. I think that the neighbor or this landowner and the applicant is a pretty reputable group, and I trust that they're going to be considerate, as they are with the spraying activities, that they're considerate to their neighbors around them. So I fully support this motion.
Fair.
Any other comments from members of the commission? Well said. Mary Ellen, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Clock,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilowski,
Yes.
alternate Commissioner Caird,
Yes.
alternate Commissioner Coles,
Yes.
Commissioner Santago,
Yes.
Vice Chair Salka, Chair Emersley.
Members is a yes. Motion passes 7-0. Congratulations. Let's move on to the site plan now. Item 9B, John N. Rogers trustee site plan application for proposed cider mill, a 1,800 square foot building and associated infrastructure property located at 36 Long Bottom Road in R80 zone, SPR 1841. Sev, you have anything else to add that you didn't talk about? in the
Just a
public
quick
hearing?
site plan issues, and we'll move on. I want to thank you for the approval, and I just want to mention that we didn't even think about it, but we just went through COVID. We're still not out of that. A lot of businesses survived because of the outside ability to serve outside. Again, Seth Bovino, planner with Kretzer Jones, representing the applicant. Property is at 36 Long Bottom Road. The proposal is for a cider mill with seating in and out of the building is 1,800 square feet, located 850 feet from Long Bottom Road. We propose 70 parking spaces with the additional spaces at the bottom of the hill. Site will be served by public water and sewer, private well and private septic, which was approved by the health department. The driveway is 20-foot wide paved with appropriate drainage, sidewalks along the driveway, appropriate lighting space along the driveway up and including at the building. The lights will be full cutoff, shielded, shining toward the ground. Drainage is designed to provide gyro as required by the regulations. Drainage maintains current patterns on the property. Hours of operation we discussed, 10 a.m. to midnight. Will be modern music on the inside, no fruit prep on the site. There'll be prepackaged foods, tasting room. The site is a beautiful orchard, as everybody. However, we still propose landscaping at the building and street trees on Long Bottom Road. We received that comment from staff, and we found a way to show trees along Bottom Road at the front of the property at this location there. We received staff comments, revised the maps to reflect their concerns, and responded in writing. If the commission has any questions in addition to those, we'd be glad to answer.
Okay, so before we open it up, is staff satisfied with the responses that they received from the applicant?
Mr. Chairman and members, engineering comments have been addressed.
Okay, Mary Ellen?
Yes, we're all set.
Any comments from members of the commission? This is going to require two motions. We have a sidewalk waiver requirement that requires a supermajority, which would mean we need 5 affirmative votes in order to receive that waiver. Seb, I think, talked about the waiver during the public hearing portion of it. So we need that, and then we need an application or a motion to approve the application, the site plan overall. But we'll open it up to comments from the commission.
Question.
Peter?
One thing I didn't ask, what's your signage for the site?
Signage?
Yeah.
Wow, we didn't even think about it. But it's a signage, usually it's a separate permit. So it would have to go to the planning department to get a permit. Peter, do you have any idea of signage? We proposing to have a sign at the entrance? Side of the barn? Okay. But I would have to meet the regulations.
Right. Well, I was thinking, because especially, if you go to buy apples, I would suspect you're going to want to tell people, hey, go down the road, as well as if you're going by, how do I know when to stop and where to go? So signage, hence my question. Particularly that I'm going along a curve and I'd kind of like to know when to stop ahead of time or whatever it is.
So Greg Parzik, so we have the same problem every fall when Pick Your Own opens because
Yeah.
the store is in one direction and the Pick Your Own is in
Hence I ask.
So we do have some grandfathered tree signs that I don't think will be changing over to cider house signs, but we'll have to address that with separate permits.
Okay.
Jen?
One thing that I didn't ask, and this is, I guess it's more of a suggestion. I'm not sure what technology allows you to do, and of course I wouldn't want to put any more spending than you're already putting on it, but I'm just thinking about that walk down the hill. For me, if I was alone, it might be, you have it well lit, but if there's anything that you could put there as far as security, like a camera or a call, I don't know if this exists, a call box or just something along that walkway would probably be a good added feature, but that's
That's a point.
not required, just a suggestion.
Thanks, Jen. Any other comments from members of the commission? Okay, so let's look at the sidewalk waiver. Can we get a motion on that?
Mr. Chair, make a motion, we approve the sidewalk waiver for Long Bottom Road.
We have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
That's Steve. Yep. Any further discussion on this? Caleb?
Mr. Chair, I know that we, as a group, typically don't like to give sidewalk waivers. Considering the topography of the area and the existing use that it's a farm, it seems difficult at best to even install a sidewalk along Long Bottom Road, which is attached to this property. So I think it, begrudgingly, I can feel palpitations coming from this side, but I think that when we look at these things in all seriousness, it's a farm, and we shouldn't expect. Here's the thing: we shouldn't expect pedestrian traffic all the way up there. If there is pedestrian traffic all the way up there, then we have a problem with parking on the site. That's the bigger problem. So, I think we had talked about, how many spaces are going to be there and how many spaces are going to be there in the future. And I guess we'll open this up for more discussion then. If the parking that we're looking at here is not going to be enough someday, that maybe we do need and the next parking space has to be up Long Bottom Road, that might be an issue where the sidewalk might come into play. I think that as displayed here with the usage, it's one thing. I guess my other concern is that if we do get to a point where there's cars parking along Long Bottom Road because both parking lots, the overflow parking lot, are full, people are going to park somewhere. And to the point where your families are right around there, you might want to consider, how that might impact you guys as residents in the area. So maybe I don't think I helped at all. I think I just muddied the water.
Supporting it.
supporting a sidewalk waiver? Or?
I'm,
'Cause-
just,
'cause
I'm,
what I
just,
just heard was-
I'm discussing a sidewalk waiver.
Okay.
There's a lot of conversation in your head.
There's a lot of things going on up there.
So let me, you know, I think everybody up here knows that I traditionally, I do not support sidewalk waivers. And I think the reasons that you just laid out, Caleb, actually support not supporting a sidewalk waiver, because if there is a problem with parking down the road, we don't get a chance to come back at this and say you have to put a sidewalk in there. It doesn't happen. You get one bite at the apple and that's it. No pun intended, I guess. Said there's a motion on the floor, you don't get an opportunity to talk. So that's kind of where I am. Having said that, I'm kind of a little bit more flexible here because of the location, and I think that there's going to be adequate parking for the size of the facility. If they ever were to expand the facility, I believe that they would have to come back with another application to expand the facility, and maybe that's an opportunity to come back and require a sidewalk at that time. But that's kind of my thoughts. But Caleb, everything you just said
Right.
leads
And,
me to believe that I should vote against the sidewalk.
well, and that's why I put it out there to hit the pinata a little bit, so to speak. But I you know, I just came up with that. That's good. But I appreciate, Mr. Chair, your comments that, you know, we can only fit so many bodies up in the proposed space. And it sounds like with the 100 or so spaces that we have, that should be able to satisfy that. So if it is that, you know, once, if and when, because we are hoping that we're going to ride this train a little bit longer and expand a little bit more, that we can get a second bite at that sidewalk apple, then I'm more open to it. It makes me feel better.
All right.
You gave me the warm fuzzies at the end.
Oh.
And you know what? You sold it to me.
Oh. I'm not quite sure. Any other comments from members of the commission on the sidewalk waiver? So again, a vote in the affirmative is a vote to allow for the waiver. A vote in the negative would mean that you are not supporting a sidewalk waiver. There is a supermajority requirement on this. That we need 5 affirmative votes in order to get a waiver on this. So with that, Mary Ellen, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Clock,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilowski,
Yes.
alternate Commissioner Caird,
Yes.
alternate Commissioner Cole,
Yes.
Commissioner Santego,
Yes.
Vice Chair Salka,
Yes.
Chair Hammersley.
You won't hear this often, but Hammersley's a yes on that. So,
Oh,
Right, Mr. Chairman.
wow.
so let's,
Drink to that.
I even thought about throwing one against the no, but I, you know, for all the reasons that I stated. Anyways, now we move on to the site plan application. Can we get a motion on that?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve SPR 1841 with the stipulation that the applicant shall submit all required documentation regarding the proposed holding tank for the cider tasting area discharge to the Health Department and file a general permit for miscellaneous industrial use prior to issuance of a zoning permit.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Okay. Commissioner Clock with a second. Any further discussion? I'll just say, I think this is going to be a great thing. And, you know, bravo to you for bringing it to us. And, you know, I think that the commission has been impressed with the presentation, and I look forward to going up there at some point when you open up. So maybe we'll have a little commission meeting off-site there. But with that, Mary Ellen, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Clock,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilowski,
Yes.
alternate Commissioner Caird,
Yes.
alternate Commissioner Coles,
Yes.
Commissioner Santego,
Yes.
Vice Chair Salka,
Yes.
Chair Hammersley.
Hammersley's a yes. Motion passes 7-0. Congratulations and best of luck. Moving on to item 9C, Lewis Realty LLC. I think we're looking for a table on this. Can we get a motion?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion to table. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Coles with a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 7D, GLNK LLC site plan application for a 22,620 plus or minus square foot 54-room boutique hotel, property located at 17 West Street in an I2 zone, SPR 1839. This was tabled from our last meeting on June 7th.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. James Iogus, I'm the attorney representing the applicant, 104 Bellevue Avenue in Bristol, Connecticut. As the application states, it relates to property at 17 West Street in Plantsville, which is at the intersection of West Street, Marion Avenue, and West Main Street. The property is located in a I-2 zone, and the parcel is conforming to that zone as to size and the frontage. The minimum lot area is 20,000 square feet, and the minimum frontage requirement is 100 feet. Our building lot is 47,676 square feet, and we have a frontage of 428 feet, as this is a corner lot. Parking for a building of this size has a requirement of, in this zone, under this use, of 55 parking spaces. We have provided 56 parking spaces. Permitted uses in this zone are relating to manufacturing, construction yards, health clubs, business offices, and hotels. Our application tonight is for a boutique hotel consisting of 3 stories and a finished lower level. The parcel is serviced by city water and city sewer, and the hotel will have 54 rooms located on 3 levels. It will also include a lobby on the first level with a check-in office. On the lower level, it is designed to hold a couple of different types of facilities. Number one, there's a small meeting room which will hold 14 people. There's a small fitness center that will hold about 9 people. And then there's a breakfast area that will hold about 42 people, and that breakfast area is a continental style breakfast. There's a kitchen pantry that's available for prepackaged food, juices, coffees, etc. There'll be no full-scale breakfast, and there'll be no restaurant or conference center. The reason it does not include a restaurant and a conference center is a couple. One is space, but secondly, Plantsville is just a walk. The center of Plantsville you can walk to from this proposal. A number of good restaurants in the area, and we think this proposal will be a good way of getting people, pedestrians, into downtown Plantsville to utilize the restaurants that are in place. The design of the hotel itself is intended to blend with the other buildings in the neighborhood. It will stand 3 stories tall with a height of 45 feet. The maximum building height in this zone is 65 feet, so we're within the regulations as far as that is concerned. As part of the package that was filed in the application and the notices, you'll see that the wetlands permit for this site was granted on March 3rd, 2022. Subsequently, the Water Department, Fire Department, and Health Department have all reviewed the plans and have provided approval letters to the Commission. We have received comments from city staff, from planning, and from engineering, and I believe SEV has addressed those comments in writing and has revised the plans accordingly. The only unresolved comment has to deal with the side yard buffer that's required between an industrial zone and a residential zone. The regulations require that a 30-foot buffer exist between the 2 different zones. There is one residential dwelling to the north of our property. The purpose of the regulation is to provide a landscaped buffer and to shield headlights from shining into the residential properties. Now, this can be accomplished in another way other than a 30-foot buffer, and basically what we've proposed to the Commission, and I'm just going to pass out this cross-section so you have an idea of what I'm talking about. You would take one and pass it down, please. We certainly recognize that a 2/3 vote is required for a waiver of this buffer requirement from the Commission in accordance with your regulations. But what we've done is we've moved the building as far away from the residential dwelling as is possible. We're approximately 100 feet away from that residential dwelling, and we're approximately 57 feet from our property line. The elevation of the driveway where our parking area is located is at 150 feet to 151 feet. The elevation of our abutting property owner is relatively the same. We are proposing a 2-foot high berm at the end of our parking lot. In addition to that 2-foot high berm, what we're proposing is a 6-foot screening barrier of arborvitaes or other evergreen trees that are going to hold their branches during the wintertime. And in addition to that, we're going to propose a vinyl fence on the top of the berm, which is light-proof. Interspace between the 6-foot trees will have some lower flowering shrubs that will fill in the gaps until the trees grow to their height. In looking at this measure for the berm and the fence, and I'm sure Scott Hesketh could talk about this, but I think the average height vehicle headlight is about 2.5 feet to 4 feet off the ground. So we've got a 2-foot buffer, we've got a 6-foot fence. That gives us a total of 8 feet. It's going to be more than sufficient to shield the lights from entering into the neighbor's yard. With us tonight is Scott Hesketh. He's our traffic engineer. He's going to tell you something about traffic in terms of the intersection here, the level of service, which we think is important. Our architect is Charlie Nyberg. He's designed this building, and he has some interesting comments with respect to the type of design that he composed for this particular use. And of course, our site planner is Seb Bavino, and Seb will talk about the dimensions, the circulation, etc. As I said, the fire department has approved the plan. The water department has deemed it to be sufficient. The health department has also signed off on it. And I think we've addressed all of the comments of the engineering and planning, except for the buffer requirement, which I just presented to you. So let's turn to Scott and have him talk about traffic. And then at the end, we'll get to answer all of your questions.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Scott Hesketh. I'm a licensed engineer, state of Connecticut, firm of F.A. Hesketh and Associates. And we have written a report dated March 1st, 2022, which has been submitted along with this application. We were asked to review the existing roadway conditions and the traffic volumes associated with the background traffic and the site-generated traffic, and to review the impact of the site-generated traffic on the local roadway network. In order to do that, we obtained traffic volume counts from the Connecticut Department of Transportation. We also conducted manual turning movement counts at the intersection of West Street, Marion Avenue, and West Main Street. We projected the traffic volumes from the proposed development using the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Report, distributed to the local roadway network. And then we conducted capacity analysis calculations for both the background and combined traffic volume conditions in order to determine the operational effectiveness of the intersection, both pre and post development. I won't throw a lot of numbers at you. They're all contained in the report unless you would like me to go into it specifically. But I'll just say that the proposed development is projected to generate approximately 430 trips on a daily basis, with approximately 35 trips during the morning peak hour and 34 trips during the afternoon peak hour. We do have 2 proposed site driveways, one to West Street and one to West Main Street. So we have a good distribution of site-generated traffic. We have projected about 80% of that traffic will be to and from Interstate 84. And we had projected 10% along Route 10 toward the center of town, another 10% up West Street. That could vary slightly, but that seems to be an appropriate distribution. Based on those traffic volume numbers, the counts that we took, and the capacity analysis and the distribution that we've just presented, the intersection of Marion Avenue, West Main Street, and West Street, based on our calculations, currently operates at the level of service B during the morning and afternoon peak hours, and will continue to do so under the combined traffic volume conditions. The operations of the 2 site driveways, the Main Street approaches on West Street and West Main Street, all operate at level service A during peak hours, and the site driveway approaches, which will operate under stop sign control, are projected to operate at levels of service B during both the morning and afternoon peak hours. The plans were submitted to the town staff. They did make one recommendation that we paint a do not block the box pavement markings on the driveway to West Main Street. We think that we accepted that recommendation. It's shown on the plans. We also did propose to do some restriping of West Main Street. Right now, there is a striped island out on West Main Street. And technically speaking, from a DOT standpoint, you are not allowed to make a left-hand turn across a double yellow center line. So we have to do a little bit of restriping in that section to narrow up or shorten up the median, painted median there, so that the median ends prior to the site driveway, so that left turns can legally occur. So
Do you have a picture of that medium? Because I don't recognize any medium in that area.
I don't have a photograph of it on hand, no, but it's a short one. It's a tear-shaped dropped median, and if you're not paying attention, you probably would miss it. Maybe it's gone currently, I don't know, but our inspections and review of aerial photographs, it was certainly there. But
None there.
is it reflected on this? And it's reflected on the topographic surveys as well. So.
I don't think anything exists there now. I
No,
think it's
there's
just-
no median there.
Yeah.
Jim's got a picture. Go
Well,
ahead.
that's even better.
Go ahead.
It's
going.
taken care of then. In terms of the locations of the site driveways, the driveway to West Main Street's about 110 feet behind the stop bar at the intersection. The queuing analysis indicates the queues at the driveway will be between 200 and 230 feet, hence the comment for the don't block the box pavement markings in that location. That will allow vehicles to enter and exit the driveway by stopping vehicles. The queuing on West Street, the driveway to West Street's located about 165 feet behind the stop bar, and the queuing calculations indicate 50 to 60 feet of queue on average during the peak hours. The intersection site distances meet CONDOT requirements for the driveway locations. So it's based on that information, the good levels of service, the traffic volume conditions, and we believe that the local roadway network is capable of accommodating the traffic volumes associated with this development without imperiling the public safety. That's my short and sweet presentation. If the commission has any particular questions related to traffic, I'll be happy to accommodate them at the appropriate time, whether that's now or later. And I believe Charlie Nyberg is going to give you some information on the architecture of the project at this time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Don't get old. Good evening, folks. Charles Nyberg, project architect, office Shadler Selnow, 5 Waterville Road in Farmington. We have been working with our client and SEV's office on this for a fair amount of time. One of our iterations, I believe, was a 4 or 5 story building. We had parking at grade underneath the building, trying to balance parking with a number of units. The size of the building has adjusted itself any number of times to the point at which right now, as Jim has gone over, and I won't belabor a lot of what he's already said, that our building now has a 54 room capacity. The majority of the rooms are on the second and third floor. The first floor has a series of rooms along with the main entrance. There's an entry area that leads to and it's on your plan, it leads to elevators, which are at the back of the building on the north side, a reception area, some office space, a block of rooms to the west, a block of rooms to the east. There's a stair tower in this corner and a stair tower in that corner, forming the 2 means of egress that are required. When you walk in, and again, one of the things that happened with the plan, that once we dropped, and again with SEV's input and various inputs, dropped the building from the 4 or 5 story down to 3, the amenity package, which is part of the charm of a boutique, go to the rendering if you can. Yeah, okay. Part of the boutique hotel is a much smaller hotel that has 10 to 90 rooms and can devote more staff to the needs of their tenants. So the, okay, thanks. Just hit this. Oh, that's good. So we have a series of, with the colors, we have queen bedrooms, we have king bedrooms, there are some various options of size. We have the requisite amount of ADA units that are required. And as I say, on the first floor, when you come in the lobby, there's a walkway that leads you to the check-in desk, office, elevator, rooms, and rooms. You go by a area that's an overlook to the lower level. Again, the lower level space is our amenity area because there wasn't enough room to do all of that on this first floor with the 3-story building. So the lower level space no, that's no, that's okay. So this is the lower level. When you walk in, you're overlooking an area that you look down. There's a stair that leads you to it. You can either use the stair or the elevator. You go down to the central area, which is your sort of lounge. You don't want to be in your room. You want to do your Wi-Fi, whatever. You can be in here. It's the area for the little breakfast area. There's a pantry. It's not a kitchen. It's a pantry. If we were to have tried to do a kitchen in here, we would have had the limitations of depending upon what we were doing with the menu, we would have a need for an exhaust duct, a supply duct. It gets to be very complicated. So this is basically just a small pantry that has some storage, little breakfast bar, juices, apples, bananas, cereal, pancakes, whatever. And then, as Jim had mentioned, we have a small meeting room. We have bathrooms at this level for people that are down at this level, as well as an exercise area. These are the amenities that the people today are looking for when they stay in a smaller type hotel, a boutique hotel. We have a laundry area. We have some mechanical equipment. We have additional office space. We also have a mechanical area down at this end. This is where our sprinkler water and our domestic water is coming into the building. That was worked out with the water department finally in terms of a loose end as to how we were going to bring that into the building. If I might, I would like to turn the elevation, that rendering. As far as the design of the building, I think you're familiar with 229 and what happens on that street with the Marriott. The designs today are more slab-sided, simpler materials, certainly not a New England architecture. The design cue for this building was taken from the photos which I've just passed out. It's a house at 67 West Street. It's a 2-story residence, and I have grown up in Plainville. My dad used to work at what was 5 Star, which is now Dean Stove and Spa. And I've always gone by this house, and I just was enamored of its look. And so the design cue for this building was taken from that. We have set that house mass on a 1-story brick element. It's certainly New England in character. It's 3 floors. It's a brick base. We would have laurel wood trim, hardy plant clapboards, an architectural shingle roof, the windows, the shutters, again, all a design that's in keeping with the residents. It's a residential neighborhood, and we're trying to bring that look, although it's a larger building, that look to this location. Again, as I say, I think Jim has gone over a lot of what I would have said about the interior, and I'm available to answer any of your questions as you go through deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you. Bless you.
Mr. Chairman, Commission members, Seth Bovino, planner, Democrats, Jones, represent the applicant. The attorney, traffic engineer, and the architect covered a lot of the issues that you are interested in, but I'll do a quick intro on the drainage on this property is contained within the property. We provide Zyra as required by the regulation. There is a structure on the property, a catch basin that was built by the state when they rebuilt that section. We are tying into that catch basin. We are proposing a wall along the frontage of the site, right around that curve to, this is going to be the gateway to Plantsville, so we're trying to beautify that. In addition to the wall, we propose a landscape berm to the north and to the west of this wall with low flowering shrubs. Lighting is provided throughout the site, appropriately shielded, and the height is 18-20 feet. The lot coverage in this area is 50%, and our proposal will give you a lot coverage of 15.3%, where the allowed coverage is 50%. Landscape, we propose trees in the rear of the property next to the neighbor's property, because we're going to cut some of the underbrush that is overgrown into the parking area. So we're going to replace that with new landscaping like the attorney described, with plantings, with the evergreen trees and a fence on that side. And as you go toward the west, where the neighbor's property is, actually we have more distance to his property line than it is normally on the north side of that property. Those are the issues that relate to site plan. If you have any questions for me or the attorney, I'll be glad to answer.
Anything else to say? Okay. We'll respond. I just want to, before we open it up to other commission members, the fire department approval had a requested stipulation or condition that a fire hydrant be installed with fire department connection on the outside of the building for the fire sprinkler system. You guys acknowledge that? You're okay with it?
Yes.
We showed on the plan,
Okay.
shown already on the plan.
All right. Well, let's open it up to commission members. Commissioner Santiago.
So please forgive my ignorance. What's a boutique hotel versus a Motel 6, a Marriott, whatever? What's the distinguishing factor of a boutique hotel versus a hotel?
Charlie's well versed.
Not necessarily reversed. I'll give you a crib note.
You already put it on the record and they agreed to it.
I looked up I did the same thing. What was a boutique hotel? Charles Nyberg. And a boutique hotel, as defined in Marriott and various chains, if you would, a boutique hotel is a small hotel which typically has between, you can agree or disagree with this, but this was the definition. A boutique hotel is a small hotel which typically has between 10 and 100 rooms because it can offer upscale accommodations with a personal touch to every guest. And basically what I said is we have 54 rooms varying in size to provide guest options. The design follows the latest in design trends, meeting the evolving guest needs. The current design trends are towards, and again, this is more the design of the building. The current design trends are towards contemporary architectural cues with flat roofs and plain wall surfaces. So that's
I
a
think you
boutique
answered it with the word upscale. So this is not, I think, a place where,
One night stands.
yeah, it's not a place of, I'll say, unsavory folks are gonna.
I don't know if you
go.
fellows knew a Joe Vitrano. He was from Bristol. He was an entrepreneur. He developed part of West Farms. He knew Sophia Loren and all of these folks back in the
Okay.
day. Anyway, Joe's comment about the hotels and motels on the Berlin Turnpike, they were hot pillow.
Yeah, I get it.
This is not a hot pillow motel.
Okay, thank you, because coming off that exit, this is a gateway into Plantsville.
Indeed it is.
And so having nice architecture like that, it is a place that can be historic in regards to this is the first thing people see when they came off of there going wherever it is they go. So it's important that it is not, as you describe, and something as that. But even if it was, and I appreciate Attorney Zioga's presentation and the manner in which you conducted it, because this is not a special permit. This is not something, and as you know, but for public's edification, where whether we had 100 hotels in town or none of that matters. None of that can be taken into consideration for this. Every application must be considered singularly. Whether or not this is going to be a viable business cannot be considered by us. And so the manner in which you went about it to say, we are in keeping with regulation, XYZ, is the only thing we have to consider here in regards to that. So I appreciate the manner in which you do that, and really just for public edification about how we would do this, which is why there's no public hearing, because you're within regulation. It's not a special permit, so you don't get one.
The building across the street, which I guess is going to be a brewery, I believe. That was what I understood.
Okay.
That's a very unique factory building
Yeah.
that, again, would somebody coming along and trying to restore that and bring that back into life would be a welcome addition to, if, again, you are so inclined to approve this evening, will be an upscale addition to that particular location.
Right. Thank you. So, but in regards to site, Sev, I'll ask, in regards to traffic flow and entrance and egress, you have 2 entrances and egresses on this, and both in and out?
Yes, it's a two-way in and out, both driveway curb cuts. They were built by the state, and we're utilizing those.
Oh, so those are existing
Those are
curbs?
existing.
Oh, okay.
There's a granite curbing all along the frontage, and the granite then dives down to the level of the curb cut and comes in, and we're utilizing those curb cuts.
Gotcha. And there's sidewalks?
There's sidewalks already. And as far as the striped line that's on the street, the yellow line that was hard to see on the plan. And it's a light line, but that's there. Clear shade, and that's going to be redesigned to allow the left turn.
All right, I'm done. Yeah.
Any other comments from members of the commission? Commissioner Woloski?
Yes, I would like you to address, if you can, the request for the buffer reduction, as our chair has a problem with sidewalk waivers. Buffer reductions are one of mine, so explain why it's necessary, and perhaps the rest of the commission can discuss, why it's okay for us to approve it with this. I like the idea of the use of the property. I just expand on the buffer reduction for me.
In order to make the project viable, there was a tipping point in terms of the number of rooms that we needed to have to make it work. And with the number of rooms comes the equation of you need X number of parking spaces to go along with it. We have a site that is larger than the zone requires, but still in that area, our parking spaces were close to the side yard or the rear yard, as the case may be. So we couldn't meet the 30-foot requirement that's in your regulations. The purpose of the regulation, as I looked at it, appeared to be to create some distance between what you're building and what your neighbor is seeing to the extent that you can. And the second thing is to avoid light trespass from the cars pulling in and out at whatever hours people check in, check out, go to dinner, and come home from dinner. So what we tried to do was to accommodate the fact that if we put a small berm with a 6-foot tree on it, we could at least get up to 8 feet. And if we put a 6-foot fence on top of that 2-foot berm as a backup, we could provide sufficient protection against light trespass onto our neighbor's yard. So we kind of two-folded it to ensure that it would work, and we wanted to give the commission some assurances that we certainly were sensitive to a couple of things. One was that this is a gateway, and that the area, while it's not residential in nature, has residences in it. So we were trying to protect against that and still be good neighbors. And that's why we did the berm, the fence, and the trees. So, and sometimes when you plant trees, you plant them at 5 feet apart. we're going to have some lower shrubs that we're going to intersperse between those openings so that there is a solid green space between us and our neighbor. But we think the fence is really an added protection, and quite frankly, I think it works.
Thank you.
Bill said, Steve?
Yes.
Commissioner Salka?
You described the berm on the north side.
Yes, sir.
What, are you proposing anything on the east side where the river is?
Yes, we're proposing the same thing on the east side. And also
Okay, because
we-
the schematic here just shows north. So it'll be on the east side as well, next to the river.
next to residential areas.
And the second question is, on the schematic, what is the color scheme for the building itself, other than the bricks on the bottom? What is the color scheme for the building and the shutters and,
Making him get up.
what's that?
Yeah, he's making him get up.
Charles Nyberg again. At this point, it's a schematic. I guess I would ask a question of and again, I've been doing this a long time, but does the commission do you want to know that now? I'm showing white and a yellow cream color with the base color being in brick. As we evolve the project, we will get into the actual colors. Is this something that by showing this, I'm asking, and we'll live with it.
I'm really just asking a question because, as one of the commissioners said, this is the gateway into Plantsville. And what you don't want is this big thing looking at you unless it's aesthetically pleasing.
Well, I would hope.
I don't claim to be an architect, but the picture you showed of that home, which is white with black shutters versus looks
The
like
home,
cream on
actually,
white,
it's not white,
doesn't do
it's
anything for me. I'm not an architect.
The home that I showed you, I don't think is white. It's more of a, I'm not sure what it is, but it's not white.
It's stucco.
Olive.
Huh?
Not sure what color it is. It's beige.
Yeah.
We need a woman's input on this, I think, because
Yeah, let's
Cream?
not get, yeah.
No, I'm not. That's not my intent. My intent is just if you had the answer.
Well, the answer, I guess, is going to be, this is a New England building, New England character. It's not what's on Route 229, and it will be in keeping with colonial colors or colors of this period of 1800, 1900, whatever.
Okay.
It's not going to be red. It's not going to be green. It won't be purple. It'll be very tastefully done. And
Thank you.
Wider structure. Shutter.
Okay, you all set, Pat?
I'm set. Thank
Okay,
you.
any other questions from members of the commission? Commissioner Clark?
I have a comment and a request. So, Mr. Nyberg, you don't have to come back up. This right here takes heart. This takes heart. This is from your heart. This picture and this thought process is awesome. Part of our plan of conservation and development identifies Plantsville as going through a renaissance adjustment, and they're making a lot of improvements in Plantsville. So this right here is perfect. And my only request would be, please don't go too modern. Please stay with this all the way. As you noted, the buildings adjacent to the property are old and historic, and we want to just protect that look and feel for the residents of our town.
we will do that. But the office that I'm with now, my former office had been Associated Architects. I shut that down. I'm with Shadler Sell now. We just finished the visitor center at Elizabeth Park. We did the interior over. We didn't do the outside. That was done before we got there. So we have a lot of experience with historic architecture, the redos and what have you. And to me, again, as this went through a number of iterations, that building, as I say, was unique in my mind. The other houses are their houses. This had a character that I felt I could put on top of that base, elevate it, and create the look that I think is needed in this area.
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Coles.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have two things I want to talk about. The first is an easy one, and I don't even know if you have the answer to it, but I'll throw it out there. Has a brand been picked for this yet?
Yeah, it is. It has not.
Okay.
Again, a lot of these companies won't even talk to you till you have a site plan approval. So we're in the process of that being the next step.
Are there, with that in understanding, are there brands that you are looking to court?
Yes. Yes. And again, I'm like Charles sometimes. I'm not an expert in the hotel business, but they are readily recognized higher end boutique hotels.
Okay. Fair enough. I kind of want to circle back to what C was saying. I kind of feel the same way about setbacks and things like that. So I just want to focus a little bit more about the berm. If we can just talk about that for a sec. Trying to pull my drawing up here somewhere. Well, I'll just go from memory. So the berm is going to be 2 foot high. The fence is going to be there. It's going to be a stockade style vinyl fence. The plantings on top of it. Now I'm looking at the schematic, and it's a drawing. You have to put something there. So the taller evergreens, those will be to the from looking from the parking lot towards the berm. It'll be berm, fence, tall trees behind it.
On top of it.
Yes, but the fence will be first. Then the taller vegetation will be behind that to kind of give the extra protection. Okay. And then in the front of it, there'll be the smaller things to break up that. Okay. How far from, and it's hard for me to tell, how far from the parking bumper stop to the start of the berm is it?
Total distance, Sepovino, total distance 10 feet from the curb to the property line. So we built this within the 10 feet.
So within that 10 feet, we have to go the 4 foot wide berm and then 3 foot on each side for the rise for that 2.2 to 1 slope.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, and I've asked this before on other applicants, and I'm just going to float it now too. I've often had concerns about arborvitaes and some plantings taking off. And I think the last time we actually talked about a berm, I had similar questions as far as my concern with it dying off. And sometimes just trees just don't take, or they take for a couple years and then they're gone. I want to have some, because I feel the anxiety of the neighbors behind them, and I think the direction that you're going, I hope that would satisfy the neighbors, and I just kind of want to channel their concerns here. So, if there was a way for you to address possible die off over the years, we talked about. I've asked about bonding and things like that, and I don't know if that's the appropriate way to go with this, but I just want to have some assurances that with the planting schedule that's approved here with the site, that that those, if there is die off, that planting schedule will be replaced as needed.
Yes. I mean, the short answer is yes. Does the commission have a preference in terms of the type of trees that we plant on the top of that berm? That's an open question as far as we're concerned. We're not married to any particular type of tree. We would like to, of course, plant the one that is most indigenous to this area, that's going to do the best in the cold weather. Our original plan is what, Seb, in terms of
My
the trees?
thought was evergreens, which could be like a Christmas tree type of thing, spruces or spruce mixed with maybe hemlocks, something that brings the green quickly and fills in.
So the maximum height for trees like that, I mean, are we talking something that in 30 years is going to be 60 feet tall?
I wouldn't say 60 feet, no.
But it's a big tree.
But it can be.
These are big trees.
Hang on,
Big trees that are going to.
Hold on, let Caleb finish.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So I guess my concern is now that we're looking at a big tree that's going to have to be planted next to a fence on a 4 foot berm within 3 feet of a property line. That's a big tree. On the other side of a fence, that if it needs to be pruned or trimmed or maintained, we're not going to be able to get to it because we don't have access, because we'd have to come back from the adjoining property owner's lot to get to that and do maintenance of these trees as
That's one of the reasons he suggested the arborvitae, because they stay
Seth, can you
slim,
talk?
contained. And the fence can
Seth,
also
can you
be,
talk into the
the fence can also be placed at the property line versus prior to. We could put the fence, and then we have all the trees and the berm and the smaller shrubbery on our side. We can do that. So you don't have to worry about interference with the property owner next door.
I'm going to punt to Steve.
Well, hold on. Are you done?
I think I'm done. I'll come back around, but I want to.
Well, Caleb, let's finish up your line of questions and then we'll go where we go.
That addressed my concerns. And just to circle back around, is that the planting scheme, if there is die off, that those will be replaced.
Yes.
Okay, that's really where I wanted to go with
It would
this.
be required to if we put that on the site plan. They'd be required to replace them. So any other questions from members of the commission?
Well,
Steve,
it's not
before-
necessary.
Before we
Okay.
get to the second one, let's see if anyone else has any other questions first. No? Commissioner Wolowski.
I would suggest that while I don't typically think that arborvitaes are required or the best choice in most places, I would say that in this area it would be, and I'd probably look at green giants. I think that if you use that particular variety, they'll grow tall, they'll grow quick, and they'll maintain the area, as opposed to pines or spruce. I think they'll just get too big and gangly for the area. And with that said, I would probably recommend maybe doing an 8-foot fence right on the property line versus doing a 6-foot fence on top of the berm.
Yeah, the problem with the 8-foot fence is that your regulations don't allow it. And we have a problem with that.
I believe we need a variance for an 8-foot fence. Yeah. We could put an 8-foot fence, but I don't know if we need it. I think you need it.
If we're addressing the light situation, the trees are going to grow fast enough where the 6-foot fence will probably cover it. And I still think it's best on the property line versus
Yeah, we're
on the berm.
flexible in that regard. In fact, Seth and I were debating about what was the best way to go about it. And we said, well, we'll present it and then the commission can give us a little direction. So
If I might, the
It will
neighbor,
be just off the property line, of course.
the neighbor in question's on the ZBA, and I know that he's willing to work with you. So, I think that keeping an open dialogue with him
Okay,
would probably work out quite well for all parties concerned.
very well.
Any other questions from members of the commission? Couple things. One, I talked about a fire hydrant earlier. The plans that I'm looking at, I can't show it, so I'm going to ask you to point it out to me. Do you have that plan in digital format that you can throw up on the screen, Sev, or?
That on this plan, Seth?
Should be on this plan.
Okay, why don't we do it that way than pulling out a paper?
The fire hydrant is located right where the water line is coming in.
It would be right in this area here.
Okay, and the hookup to the sprinkler system for the fire department, where are we looking at for that?
That's on this side of the building.
Okay, I'm just trying to put it on the record.
That's perfectly
I
fine.
talked to the town engineer, he's comfortable with it, I just want to put it on the record that you
Yep.
pointed out where the fire hydrant and the sprinkler system would be attached. With regards to the neighbor there, my experience tells me that in terms of staging of the project, that to be the least disruptive to the adjoining residential area, that the creation of that buffer probably should be at the front end of the construction process. And that's done so that when you start bringing in the bigger trucks, that person is disrupted to a minimal amount allowed. And I think it's a fair request to make, given the request that you're asking us to relieve you of the requirement on the berm there, which I fully understand what's going on there. I don't have a problem with it, except we've had a couple different developments in town, AAA facility, the Dairy Queen out on Meriden Waterbury Turnpike, where we did not stipulate that. And, in my mind anyways, it became something that I regretted wasn't part of that stipulation, or part of that approval. So I just, phasing wise, it makes sense to do.
Yeah, we agree, and you can make that a stipulation if you'd like, but that will be our intention, and I've made a note of it. We'll put it on the plan, so that'll be taken care of. If you had more, go ahead, Commissioner. I'm sorry.
No, the other thing, along the lines of what Commissioner Clark said, and I think Peter mentioned something about this as well. This is a gateway into a community that we are trying our best to rehabilitate, I guess maybe is a word I would use, to revitalize, to give it the beauty that it deserves. And I am thankful that the sign that currently sits there, welcome to Plantsville, that your plans show that you're going to relocate that to the front part of that area. And to envision this being a part of that gateway, I'm excited about it, and I think it's a step in the right direction, and it certainly is better than the vacant dirt lot that sits there and has sat there for a number of years.
And we are committed to that in terms of the gateway to Plantsville and its access to the other areas of Plantsville that are going to benefit from this development. I think it'll be a boon to the restaurants and some of those areas down there, and people will be able to walk in. The pedestrian traffic is always healthy, so we think it's a good entrance into the community.
Okay, anything else to add before I ask for a motion? Sev, I don't need to see it.
As long as it's on the record.
He pointed it out. I
on
put it on the record. I just wanted to get that out there just to make sure that it's taken care of. So, okay, if you have nothing else, can we get a motion on this?
Do we need a waiver first?
That's right. We need a waiver for the relief of the 30-foot landscape berm requirement on the north and east sides of the property. So we'll ask for a motion on that first.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the waiver on the north and east side as requested.
We have a second.
Second.
Commissioner Wallowski with a second. Again, a 2/3 vote is required on this, so that would be 5 affirmative votes. A vote in the affirmative is to grant the waiver. A vote in the negative is to not grant the waiver. Mary Ellen, can you please call the roll, please?
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Wallowski?
Yes.
Alternate Commissioner Cairn?
Yes.
Alternate Commissioner Coles?
Yes.
Commissioner Santiago?
Yes.
Vice Chair Salka?
Yes.
Chair Hammersley?
Everett is a yes. Motion passes 7-0. With that, we're looking for a motion on the overall application.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, we approve SPR 1839 with the stipulation that the applicant shall submit all required documentation for the food service area to the Health Department prior to the issuance of a zoning permit.
Okay.
I will second, but I'll ask if Commissioner Salka will amend his motion to have the stipulation that the berm construction be done earlier in the project versus later.
So move.
So we have an
Then I will second.
amended motion. We have a second on the amended motion. Any discussion from the commission?
I'll make one comment then. Could we then further to dig deeper into that to say that the construction of the rest of the site won't begin until the berm and
Well,
plant?
Caleb, Robert's Rule of Orders, your question is actually to the maker of the motion, not to the seconder of the motion.
Okay.
So move.
So what is this amended?
He basically said the same thing that I think Peter,
Yeah, I just wanted to
Different words.
clarify it and
Okay. You okay?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion, an amended motion, and then a further amended motion that's been made and seconded by Commissioner Salka and Commissioner Santiago. Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, Mary Ellen, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Wallowski?
Yes.
Alternate Commissioner Cairn?
Yes.
Alternate Commissioner Coles?
Yes.
Commissioner Santiago?
Yes.
Vice Chair Salka?
yes.
Chair Hammersley?
Everett says a yes, motion passes 7-0.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Look forward
Good luck.
to how that turns out. Item 9E, TKO Installations, Inc. We're looking for a table on this.
Correct.
Can we get a motion?
Mr. Chairman, we make a motion, we table SPR 1840.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Polls for the second.
you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 10, administrative items. Mary Ellen, anything?
Nope.
I'll just remind members that we go, for the next 2 months, we go into a once-a-month meeting schedule. Our next meeting isn't scheduled until July 19th. With that, any receipt of any other administrative items for members of the commission?
Nope.
Okay, receipt of new applications?
There are
Anything?
none right now.
We got nothing.
Awesome.
We may be able to forego one of those summer meetings, who knows, right?
We'll see.
Playing with fire.
All right. Well, let's not belabor it any longer. If we can
Mr.
get
Chairman, make a motion to adjourn.
We got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Beautiful.